Welcome to another video that goes and does a few more and maybe a little bit more in-depth conversions. I do recommend that we're on page 340 if you have the packet. And if you don't have the packet, when you come to a new page, I would recommend just hitting pause real quick. That way you can try it before you see me do it. It's always easy when somebody else is doing the problem, so you want to try as many as you can without the help. So again, if we just talk about our process, we always start with what they give us. And in this case, they give me 8 minutes, and I make it a fraction. Now, let that guide your step. So 8 minutes, well, I want to get rid of minutes, so it goes on the bottom. My goal is to go to seconds. And hopefully you recognize that, yeah, 1 minute is 60 seconds. So that right there makes my minutes go away. And because both numbers are in the numerator, we can multiply, and my answer is 480 seconds. Don't forget to label your answer. Oh, man. Oh, nope, we're good. I'm watching the Yankee game while I do this, so pardon the commentary there. All right, number 2, 5 gallons to quarts. Again, we start with what they give us. I've got 5 gallons. Well, I want to get rid of those gallons, so they're going to go on the bottom. And then I look at my sheet and I say, oh, I know that 1 gallon is 4 quarts, which is wonderful because that's what I want, quarts. So, again, 5 and 4 are both in the numerator, multiply together, and my answer is 20 quarts. All right, nice one-step conversions. Now let's get into one that may be a little bit more, well, it's definitely more in depth because we start with 5 days and I want to go to minutes. I don't know about you, but I don't have that memorized. When I think about putting days in the bottom, oops, sorry, I kind of jumped ahead of myself with the 1 there. When I think about days, the only thing I know about days is that there are 24 hours. And most of the time, that is simply not enough for me. So that makes my days go away, and I am left with just hours, right? Talking about labels only. Well, I don't want hours. I want minutes, so I've got to keep going. So if I want to get rid of hours, what do I know about hours? Well, there are 60 minutes in each hour. So that makes my hours go away. And now the only label I have is minutes, and that's what I want. So now I can do the math. So 5 times 24 times 60 gives me a total of 7,200 minutes. And that is what I was looking for. 36 pints to gallons. Okay, so I start with 36 pints. And sometimes these might be a little trickier because I don't know pints, quarts, gallons, all those things as much as I know seconds to minutes to hours to days. So I don't use them as much. So I use my chart. Okay, again, pints are on the bottom. And now I know that I can go pints to cups or I can go pints to quarts. Well, cups get smaller, right? Then cups goes to ounces, and I want to get bigger because I want to go to gallons. So I want to say that 2 pints is 1 quarts because quarts give me closer to gallons. Okay, so this makes my pints go away, and now I'm in quarts, and then hopefully you say, oh yeah, 4 quarts is 1 gallon. So that step makes my quarts go away, and now I'm just left with gallons. So when you do the math for this problem, we start with 36, but you'll notice 2 is in the bottom. So I'm going to divide by 2, and 4 is in the bottom, so I'm going to divide by 4. So your calculator will be 36 divided by 2, divided by 4, for an answer of 4.5 GALs, right? 4.5 gals. The moon is a long way away, 250,000 miles. I feel like that's how much I drive in a week. Funny. So we start with what we're given, 250,000 miles. How many feet is that? Well, if you look at your chart, you know miles in the top means miles in the bottom. And we can do miles to feet. So 1 mile is 5,280 feet. Well, my miles and my miles go away. Nice one step. Multiply those two together. And a large honking number, I get 1,320,000,000 feet. That's a lot of feet. Sure is. Number 6, how many minutes are in 180 days? And you might say, you know what? I don't care. Well, you might not care, but that doesn't stop me. I'm still going to do the problem. I've got 180 days. My goal is to get rid of days. Well, 1 day is 24 hours. It's all I know. all I know. Well, I guess there are 7 days in a week, but that doesn't get me closer to hours, get closer to minutes. So you kind of let it drive you. Get rid of hours. Yep, 1 hour is 60 minutes. One step at a time with these. And now all my numbers are in the numerator. So 180 times 24 times 60. And when I multiply those together, I get 59,200 minutes. The label on my paper says miles. I forgot the N, but I believe that is the right number when you multiply those together. At least I hope so. Whoop, whoop. And one more of these conversion. A football field is 100 yards long. That is from goal line to goal line. That's not including the end zones, in case anybody cared. So we've got 100 yards. How many feet is that? Well, do you remember that 1 yard is 3 feet? Question mark? And you're like, give a rip. Okay, two numbers, both in the numerator, so we multiply and we get 300 Elfito. Excellent, excellent. All right, let's play with some metrics. All right, and again, I am going to use solely the counting method in this video. So what that means, 5 kilometers. I'm starting with the number 5. Kilometers is here. Which way and how many do I move to get to meters? Well, if I start here, I go 1, 2, 3. It took me 3 humps to the right to get to meters. So that means in my 5, here's the decimal point. I'm going to take that decimal point and move it 3 spots to the right, just like this arrow said. So when I fill it in with zeros, I will end up with 5,000 meters. So if you have this chart, this is not too bad, right? So again, my process, put an X over where you start, and then move the decimal point. All right, so hectoliters to milliliters. So remember, if we have K, H, I'm not going to write them out for every one. Oh, yeah, we're doing liters. So the base unit's in the middle, then D, C, M. So where do we start? Hectometers, that's here. I want to go to millimeters, which is over yonder. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. So I take my 2.6 and I move it 5 to the right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And in these humps, I put zeros. So I have 260,000 milliliters because that's what I was going to. All right. Grams to centigrams. Well, grams is in the middle. Centigrams is 2 over. So we're going right to. And so if I have 525 with a decimal at the end, I go whoop, whoop, 1, 2. And I'm at 52,500, make that a good comma, centigrams. And that is CG. All right, millimeters to kilometers. Well, if you remember, millimeters are way over here. Kilometers are way over here. So if I start at the M's, I've got to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 places to the left. So in my number, 425, my decimal's at the end. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3 zeros in my humps. So point 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 5 kilometers. And there is that one. Centiliters to decaliters. Now that deca is DA. So it's centiliter, deciliter, main unit. And then I believe deca is after that. So from centa to 1, 2, 3 to the left. So at 45 with a decimal point, 1, 2, 3, I end up with 0.045, and that would be DAL, decaliters, DAL. Because if you just put DL, that's the disabled list in baseball, but that's deciliters in metric. And we want deca, which is DA. Don't ask me why they couldn't just pick different words. I don't know. Deca, okay, see now we have decigram. So decigram to hectogram, if you look at your chart, we've got to go left 3 places. So if I have 200 with a decimal point, I go 1, 2, 3, and I end up with 0.2 hectograms. 0.2. How many liters are in 0.250 milliliters? Okay, so we have 0.250. I start with milliliters. They're over here at the very end. And I've got to go 1, 2, 3 places to the left. Well, I didn't set this up very well, did I? So 1, 2, 3 places to the left. I've got to put 3 zeros in front of that. So we've got super small liters. Super small. Super. Grams and kilograms. All right, so kilograms are on this side, grams are in the middle. 1, 2, well, I start here. 1, 2, 3. So I got to go right 3 places, which gives me 200,000 grams. All right, we're doing good. Now we are going to use the jumping across the pond. These are kind of where it starts to get a little bit trickier. And I'm going to be consistent where I'm always going to, if possible, use the one that puts a 1 in the bottom. So here in number 16, where I'm starting with 3 inches, I want to use the inches that I can put a 1 inch on the bottom. Because if you look at your chart, right, I can go inches straight to centimeters. So 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. That makes my inches go away. And when I multiply across, I am left with 7.62 centimeters. All right. Yards to meters. Okay, so if I look at my chart, yards to meters is a 1-stepper. So I start with my 36 yards because that's what they give me. Process doesn't change. And I want to put yards in the bottom. And since this is a 1-stepper, I'm going to put 1 yard in the bottom. And that gives me 0.914 meters in the top. So that makes my yards go away. And I multiply, right? Because I think for some reason, people make less mistakes when they multiply compared to division, which I think is kind of interesting. But, you know, whatever. And then we've got 32.904 meters. Quarts to liters, another 1-stepper. Okay, so this is good. Get all these out of the way so that we can really dig into the fun stuff. So 8 quarts. Well, if it's a 1-stepper, right, you look at that chart. Let's go back. Quarts to liters is a 1-stepper. So, oops, too far. I want to put 1 quart on the bottom, and that allows me to put 0.946 liters on the top. So quart cancels out with quart. Multiply and I get 7.568 liter. All right. Pounds to kilograms. And again, we have 2 more 1-steppers. So if I've got 110 pounds, and I always use a capital LB for pounds. My L's look like ones, you know, the lowercase ones, so I just kind of put them as capital. And again, because it's a 1-stepper, I want to put the 1 on the bottom, which gives me 0.545 kilograms on the top. Makes my LBs go away, and I am left with 49.94 kilograms. If you use the other conversion for this piece here, the kilogram to pounds, it's not bad. It's not wrong. You're just going to get a slightly different answer. You'll be off by a 1/10 or 2. It's nothing huge. It's not a big deal, mathematically anyway. All right, so you could run a 10K, right? That's cool, 10 kilometers. If you do that, how many miles do you run? And you might know this already if you're a 10K runner, but if you don't, you're like, well, I don't know. Well, I can put 1 kilometer on the bottom because, again, we're a 1-stepper. Kilometers and miles can go straight back and forth. So 1 kilometer is 0.621 miles. So that makes my kilometers go away. Multiply across, and I've got 6.21 miles. Forgot the I there for a minute. So if you hear somebody say that they ran a 10K, it's only 6.21 miles. I know I say only. That's crazy. Okay, how many liters are in 15 cups? Okay, so the first thing to recognize is that liters and cups are across the pond from each other. So you do have to cross the pond. Well, let's first start with just what we're given. We're given 15 cups. And when I look at my chart, I know that you're getting a little bit seasick here. But when you come back to this chart and you look, you know that you want to end up in liters, but liters only transfer to quarts. So you somehow have to get your cups to quarts first. If I can get back to the problem. So you've got to go up to the section on your page 91 that shows you that cups can be changed to pints, right? So 2 cups is 1 pint. And now my cups go away. Well, pints doesn't help me because pints doesn't go to liters. Well, baby steps, right? You can't run before you crawl. So I know that 2 pints are 1 quart. Okay, so that gives me out of pints. Now you can see my label is quarts, and now you're like, what? Hey, look what I got. Because 1 quart, and maybe you don't say that because nobody with a life says that. 9.946 liters is 1 quart, so my quarts cancel out, and now my label is liters. So now when I go left to right, so I start with 15. 2's in the bottom, so I divide by 2. Next number, 2's in the bottom, so I divide by 2. 9.946 is in the top, so I multiply by 0.946. And when I do all that business, I end up with an answer of 3.5475 liters. Ta-da! Okay. And so then we go to the next problem. Find the number of centimeters in 5 yards. Okay, I can do that. So I start with 5 yards. And, you can do this problem you can do the last problem a number of different ways as well. But I'm going to start with saying, I know that 1 yard is 0.914 meters. Okay. Now I'm going to multiply those, and that gives me 4.57 meters. And you might be saying, well, why did you stop? You're not done. Well, I agree I'm not done. But now I'm in meters, and I want to go to centimeters. And I know that from meters to centimeters, I just move my decimal 2 places to the right by my counting method. So when I do that, 1, 2, I end up with 457 centimeters. 23, if you run the bases of a baseball field, you'll run 240 feet. How many kilometers is that? Well, I don't know, but I've got 240 feet. That's what I do know. So when you think about this, you want to get rid of feet. Well, what can you change feet to? You can go feet to yards. You can go feet to miles. Well, when I think about my options, I want to go to miles. Like, it makes me think, 5,280 feet is 1 mile. And to me, that's appealing because I know that miles go straight to kilometers. Hopefully, after you look at this stuff enough, you'll know that too. And then you could say, well, now that I have miles, that's 1 mile is 1.61 kilometer. Again, remember I say I always try to keep the 1 on the bottom. Not that it matters. And now I have kilometers, which is what I want. So 240, my 5,280 is in the bottom, so I have to divide by that. And then I'm going to multiply by 1.61 kilometers because it's in the top. And so if you run the bases of a baseball field of 240 feet, that is 0.073 kilometers. All right. 24, a teaspoon holds 5 cc's of liquid. Okay, so the identity ratio of that would be 1 teaspoon is 5 cubic centimeters. Oops, forgot the M. How many milliliters of liquid will this hold? Well, I don't know if you saw this. It is on the conversion sheet. And I'm not going to zip back and find it because you might throw up. But it tells you that 1 cubic centimeter is the same as a milliliter. So thinking about where we might need this unit, we might need this one. We've got all kinds of issues here. Now let's look at the problem and what does it ask for? Well, we start with 10 teaspoons. I've got 10 teaspoons of liquid. How many milliliters is that? Well, if I use this conversion that my red arrow is pointing to, I know teaspoon's going to go on the bottom and 5 cubic centimeters is going to go on the top. So that right there makes my teaspoons go away. Well, I know that 1 cubic centimeter is 1 milliliter, and that makes centimeters go away. So when I multiply 10 times 5 times 1, I've got 50 milliliters. That's kind of a different problem because you got the whole teaspoon aspect and cubic centimeter thing. It's a little bit different. And 25, a woman weighs 125 pounds, 5 ounces. How many grams does she weigh? Well, the issue here is that you are given pounds and ounces. And you can't do a conversion until you're all in the same unit. So my first step is going to say we've got to change pounds to ounces. So 126 pounds. And I know from my sheet that 1 pound is 16 ounces, right? This is weight pounds. And so when I do that, I multiply those together. That is 2,016 ounces. Well, don't forget we've got these 5, so we've got to add those 5 ounces together. And she weighs a total of 2,021 ounces. Well, fantastic, but that's not the question. The question is how many grams does she weigh? So if I start with 2,021 ounces over 1, you can see that the table tells us that 1 OZ is 28.35 grams. And this right here makes my OZs go away. And when I multiply across, I get 57,295.35 grams. So, if you ever want to make somebody feel bad about their weight, change it to grams. Because, 126 pounds is super light. And then you say, oh, but you weigh 57,295.35 grams. And all of a sudden I feel like, whoa, right? It just sounds bad. It's so mean. But it's what it is. So thank you for joining me on this more applications in working with conversions. Thanks.